Supervisor Fletcher or someone from your office.
Pretty much ready to go.
Chairman Cox, we are ready to go. Correct.
Man, your office looks dirty.
That's only what you see.
Good morning. We'll call this May 20th meeting of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors to order. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that all 5 supervisors are participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be handled by a roll call vote. Additionally, before we begin, any members of the public that wish to provide oral testimony during today's meeting, please review the instructions posted on the Clerk of the Board's webpage at www.sandiegocounty.gov/telecomments. With that, I will now call the roll. Supervisor Jacob?
Here.
Supervisor Gaspar?
Present.
Supervisor Fletcher?
Here.
Vice Chairman Desmond?
Here.
Chairman Cox?
Here. The first item on our agenda is public communication. It's my understanding that we have 7 public communications that have been received by the clerk, and I'll ask them to go ahead and read those at this time.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. The first non-agenda comment is from Forrest Smith. It reads, "Hello, I cannot afford the rent. My unemployment barely covers bare necessities. My rent is 70% of what I get from unemployment, which doesn't leave me enough money to get by. I'm calling on y'all to cancel the rent so that we can all survive this pandemic without going into debt. It is in your power to truly help people by canceling the rent. Please help us." The next comment is from Jason Hamas. It reads, "Our community has demonstrated a high level of compliance with all public health orders. The virus data does not warrant the forced closures we are under. It is time to stop infringing on our freedoms and reopen in a safe and healthy way." The next comment is from Michael Daniels. "Your COVID information is severely lacking. You tell us we have 36 COVID cases in La Jolla, but don't give us status information. Are they sick now, in the past? If so, are they recovered? How many active cases in La Jolla is the number we want? Not the total number since the beginning of this crisis. Come on, we can evaluate the risk without good information." Next comment is from William Gomez. It reads, "Please open public tennis courts. San Diego citizenry are very mindful and attentive to safe physical distancing, having been practicing it for 2 months. Our sport lends itself to safe distancing and have many protocols for isolating players from handling the same equipment. Please support the public's return to this healthy sport." The next comment is from Celine Lefevre. It reads, "Please reopen the tennis court. We need it for mental support for our family and friends. We need our supervisors to be full of common sense, pragmatical, connected with people. We the people have followed confinement for 2 months. We the people need to exercise for mental health, for physical health. We the people need go to the grocery stores, so let us go to tennis courts. I trust you to be a good supervisor. I trust you to be reasonable. Don't be extreme, be fair. The next comment is from Lee Liu. It reads, please reopen San Diego public tennis courts. Tennis is a social distancing sport and safe by nature. It is outdoor. Players are far from each other. I have read the protocols sent by Rancho Penasquito's Tennis Center, and I feel it's safe to open. The last non-agenda public comment is from Michael Donahue. It reads, I support opening public parks, tennis courts. The courts are run by nonprofit organizations that have developed proper protocol and have the management in place to enforce. All other San Diego tennis facilities are currently open. That concludes non-agenda public communication this morning, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. We'll move on then to the approval of the statement of the proceedings for the minutes and the regular meeting of May 6, 2020, and the Sanitation District Board meeting of April 21st, 2020. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Okay, a motion by Supervisor Jacob, seconded by Supervisor Desmond, or Vice Chairman Desmond. Any further discussion or any discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you. Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob?
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar?
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Desmond?
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes unanimously with all board members being present and voting aye.
The next item on our agenda is the formation of the consent calendar. All items on the agenda will be considered to be routine and will be acted upon by one motion unless there's a desire on the part of the public or members of the board to pull items for further discussion. Let me ask the clerk if any items have been pulled by the public.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. Item 1 has been pulled by the public. All the remaining items on the Board of Supervisors agenda, as well as the County of San Diego Sanitation District, may be placed in the consent calendar for your board's consideration.
And just for the record, there's really only one other item on the agenda, but we'll start with Supervisor Jacob to see if you have any comments or items you want to pull.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Chairman, on sanitation, item number 1. This is another step forward with our partners in the East County for the Advanced Water Purification Project. It was back in 2019 that the Joint Powers Authority was established, and we're closing in on a 2025 timeline when we estimate the project to be up and running. With approval of the wastewater service agreement that is before us today, we are committing alongside Padre Dam and the city of El Cajon to offload wastewater into a system that will provide a stable regional supply of potable water in addition to cost savings. The waste agreement is just one side of the equation, which we will need to formalize to compete for funding sources and to get the ball rolling on project contracting. I want to give a big shout out and a thank you to the county staff within Public Works for their efforts on this, especially Dan Brogadier and Bill Morgan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with that, I would move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we'll move on now to Supervisor Gaspar.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll second the consent calendar.
Okay. Supervisor Fletcher.
No items to pull.
Okay. Vice Chair Desmond.
No items to pull, Mr. Chair.
And I have no items to pull, so we do have a motion to approve the consent calendar, which will include items 2 in the sanitation district. Motion by Supervisor Jacob, seconded by Supervisor Gaspar. Mr. Clerk, is there anything else you need to announce before you take a vote?
I do not. Thank you.
And I would ask you to please call the roll.
Thank you. Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob?
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar?
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Desmond?
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes unanimously with all board members being present and voting aye.
So the one item we have is item number 1. My understanding is we have one speaker on this item. Maybe we could go ahead and hear the speaker, and then we'll see if we need to have a staff presentation.
We're still waiting for the speaker to call in at this point.
Well, why don't we go ahead and hear the staff presentation, and then if the speaker calls in, we can deal with it at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, Chairwoman Jacob and members of the board. I am Kenton Jones, Traffic Advisory Committee Secretary with the Department of Public Works. The Traffic Advisory Committee meets every 6 weeks to review proposed additions, deletions, or changes to regulatory traffic control devices on County of San Diego maintained roads. This is the second reading of TAC Item 5C, and Public Works recommends the Board of Supervisors act on this item from the January 24th, 2020 TAC meeting agenda. Item 5C is a periodic review to recertify the use of radar for speed enforcement on Monte Vista Drive from Vista city limits to Buena Creek Road in unincorporated Vista. This review is required every 7 years to comply with state law and was requested by DPW staff. Measured speeds on Monte Vista Drive, shown in green, from the Vista city limit to Buena Creek Road produced an average speed of 46.2 miles per hour. State law allows rounding measured speeds down to the nearest 5 mile per hour increment. Further, state law allows an additional 5 mile per hour reduction based on roadway operating conditions. Based on measured speeds and recent collision history, the TAC recommends decreasing the existing 45 mile per hour posted speed limit to 40 miles per hour and certifying the decreased speed limit for radar enforcement. This item establishes a tool for speed enforcement that increases road safety and retains mobility. Properly posted speed limits provide feedback to safe and reasonable drivers to improve traffic safety and reduce the number and severity of collisions and allow for fair enforcement. Item 5C is located in the North County Metro Sub-Regional Planning Area and is not represented by a community group. We recommend that the board adopt the Traffic Advisory Committee's recommendation. Board action on item 5C would introduce an ordinance to amend a speed limit. This concludes staff's presentation, and we are available to answer any questions.
Let me ask at this point, did the public caller come in at all?
Mr. Chairman, the public caller has not called in, so it appears they did not wish to address the board on this item.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Vice Chair Desmond?
Yes, thank you very much. This is in District 5, and I agree with the findings of the Traffic Advisory Committee. I thank all the people that step up and are part of that. This is a request for the four-way stop, and unfortunately, it's not warranted, so I'll go ahead and move the item.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Desmond, seconded by Supervisor Jacob. Is there any further discussion? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you. Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob?
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar?
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Desmond?
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes unanimously with all board members being present and voting aye.
That concludes the regular items on our agenda. We do have some adjournments in memory, and I'll first call on Supervisor Diane Jacob.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to adjourn this portion of our meeting in memory of Dennis Pugh, who was a very admired baseball coach and mentor to many, including one of my staff members, Adam Wilson. Dennis was in his 31st season as baseball coach at Mission Bay, returning in 2017 after a 10-year run as head baseball coach at San Marcos. Dennis is the third winningest high school baseball coach in the San Diego section with 671 wins. He was also Mission Bay's head football coach for a decade and was the school's athletic director before he left for Cal State San Marcos. As head football coach at Mission Bay, he won 86 games in 13 seasons, winning 2 San Diego section championships. During his time as head baseball coach at Cal State San Marcos, he won 280 games in 10 years. Overall, he had more than 1,000 career victories in high school baseball and football, as well as college baseball. Dennis had a long association with the annual Lions Tournament, one of the top baseball tournaments in the country. Dennis often said the thing he was most proud of was that several of his former players went into coaching ranks. 3 of his baseball players also made the big leagues, with 2 as first-round draft picks, and one of those was Adam Wilson. Dennis is survived by his wife, Marilyn, and I want to take a moment to thank Dennis for his influence on the baseball players, that he influenced their lives, and his family for the service that he provided to so many. The baseball world lost a legend, and he'll be deeply missed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Jacob. And I know that Supervisor Fletcher has a couple of adjournments in memory. Supervisor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to adjourn today's meeting in honor of Raul Carranza. Raul passed away May 7th after a long and heroic battle with muscular dystrophy. My heart aches because the world truly lost a beautiful soul. I got to know Raul and became a deep admirer of his perseverance, his determination, and his intellect when he took one of my classes at the University of California, San Diego. Over the course of an incredible academic career, Raul took every class that I taught. Raul would come into class in a wheelchair, unable to verbally communicate and speak, with very limited, almost no use of his limbs and his hands, but his brain was strong. Although his shell was broken, his intellect was incredible. He was a fighter who overcame so many hurdles and difficulties in life, and we would correspond back and forth via email. And I'll never forget receiving a long, exhaustive, point-by-point email from Raul about why he should not have gotten an A letter grade on an assignment. The TAs had made a mistake, and in fact, it should have been an A+. He never used his condition or his circumstance or the indescribable physical and communicatory challenges that he faced as any reason for anything other than simply a way of life that he had adapted to and he had overcome. And Raul's story about getting to UCSD is testament to his life. Raul first started at Southwest Community College, and then he transferred to the University of California, Los Angeles in 2010. But he was forced to withdraw after 1 quarter at UCLA because the budget cuts to Medi-Cal reduced the services that he needed, in particular the nursing care that he needed in order to be able to go to school. Raul didn't let that deter him. He went to court and he fought to have those services restored. He fought for 3 years in court and he was victorious. The state ruled that he did meet the criteria for acute level of care, which meant he would again be eligible for the nursing care and services he needed. And after winning that battle, he enrolled at UC San Diego in the fall of 2014. He was quoted for a campus newspaper as saying, "I faced many obstacles in my life, obstacles that normal people couldn't even imagine. Sometimes I get discouraged or depressed. Then I realize life is a series of obstacles. It's not supposed to be easy. It's how you deal with those obstacles that define you." Raul's life is an inspiration. It was a pleasure to know him so well, to frequently debate with him. He often said and publicly said that I was his favorite professor he ever had. And let there be no doubt, Raul was my favorite student. We lost a really great soul, and my condolences go to his family. I would also like to adjourn today's meeting in memory of Paul Jablonski, the CEO of the San Diego Metropolitan Transit System, who we lost unexpectedly last weekend. Paul's career spanned more than 40 years. 16 of those he spent at MTS. When he came to MTS, he consolidated multiple different entities in one body. He ran an incredible agency, truly world-class transit agency. And Paul's whole life was a true champion of transit, an advocate for public transportation. It was evidenced by the number of awards that the agency received: 2008 Outstanding System of the Year, 2014 General Manager of the Year, 2015 Bus Safety Excellence Award, 2017 Bus Safety Excellence Award again, 2018 Rail Safety Excellence Award. For people that knew Paul, you would know his love of transit started in college when he actually worked as a bus driver. In true fashion, Paul always kept his commercial license valid and current in case he ever needed to use it. That encompasses Paul, never afraid to get his hands dirty, not afraid to step in and do the difficult work, someone who intimately knew every aspect of our agency. But away from work, Paul's number one passion was his family. He enjoyed daily hikes with his wife, Debbie, long hiking trips with his children. He cherished his visits back to see his grandchildren. He enjoyed fly fishing. With his New England roots, he was a devoted New England Patriots fan. Paul is survived by his wife, Debbie. There are 4 children and 2 grandchildren. The MTS family and transit advocates nationwide grieve the loss of a great transit leader. And here in San Diego, we will forever remember a true public servant who committed himself to our community. May he rest in peace. My final adjournment in memory today is in memory of all the people throughout San Diego and California, across the United States and throughout the world who have lost their lives to coronavirus. To date, more than 90,000 Americans have died just in the past few months. More than 300,000 people globally, more than 3,000 people here in the state of California. In San Diego County, we were quick to start educating our residents and sharing what we knew about coronavirus. It wasn't until March 22nd, 5 weeks after we declared a public health emergency, that we had our first death in San Diego County due to COVID-19. Since then, 22 people unfortunately have lost their lives because of this deadly disease. They were all alive when they contracted coronavirus, and due to coronavirus, they are now no longer with us. Every one of these lives counts. Every one of these lives matters. The people we have lost are someone's mother or father, sister or brother, aunt, uncle, grandparent, someone's friend. No matter the circumstances, COVID-19 is the reason that their lives were cut short. And today, as we adjourn in memory, we remind ourselves that every death counts and every life matters. And so I'd like to adjourn today's memory meeting in honor of all of those we have lost to this terrible global pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. We will adjourn this meeting to go to closed session to deal with items that are properly before us in closed session. If there are any reportable items, they will be reported out by the County Counsel's office at the conclusion of the closed session. We will stand adjourned to the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors, which I believe is on June 2nd, I believe. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
You are correct, Mr. Chairman. It's Tuesday, June 2nd.
Very good. We will stand adjourned.